Yo, check it. Fam, oh fam, we got an absolute banger, man. Things are going to be crazy. This week is going to be different, fam. This week's going to be insane. SQQQ is already popping off here in 24-hour trading, literally at 39.82. Market is going to crash, ladies and gentlemen. Everything is coming to fruition. I'm going to break it all down. We talked about this on the macro. My plan on how Bitcoin would decouple from the stock market. How when the market crashes, AMC and GME would squeeze. I believe we are close. Again, I could be wrong, but I'm going to break it all down with charts, facts, and data, explaining why I feel the way I do. Make sure you check out my previous videos if you're new to the channel to catch up with everything. Let's go ahead and hop into charts, facts, data. Let's go.
All right, fam, what is up? You are back for another video with DataZero. This is your weekly outlook and prediction for stocks and crypto, and this week is going to be truly insane. We have so many things going on, so much breaking news. I'm going to break it all down in this video. You do not want to miss a second of this weekly outlook prediction. This video is not financial advice, should not be taken as such. Let's go and hop into charts, facts, data, showing y'all what's going on for this crazy week. Now, the first thing that we want to talk about, and this is a more SPY and stock market section, but you have to be aware of what is going on because this is going to affect everything. Okay, so first of all, Trump tariffs go into effect April 2nd. Okay, they're meant to go into effect April 2nd, so be ready for that. On top of that, we also have Trump making threats to not only Russia but also Iran. Okay, this is breaking news on the Trump tariffs. I dropped a short video on this, but basically Donald Trump is threatening to slap secondary tariffs on Russia and also to bomb Iran if they don't make a peace deal. So Trump is putting his cards on the table and he's trying to use force. He's trying to use the strength of America, but this could escalate things, and this is obviously potentially bearish news for the stock market. Again, I don't think Russia really cares about any more sanctions or tariffs or anything like that. They're one of the most sanctioned countries in the world. But ladies and gentlemen, this could escalate things. So we want to be aware of this, and this could be potentially bearish news for the stock market. Plus, tariffs come into effect April 2nd. They're set to come into effect April 2nd. And then remember, we also are seeing reports that futures are down. Okay, so I want you guys to remember that as we go through the rest of this video. Now, AMC and GME potentially could see some pullback here in the beginning of the week, and I'm going to break down why, and some recovery in the later half of the week. Okay, I'm going to break down why we could see this, but we are getting close to where I feel like SPY is going to start capitulating. And if I'm right, ladies and gentlemen, if I'm right, AMC and GME could see an explosive movement to the upside while the stock market is crashing. Again, that is my theory. Some people say that other people talk about this theory, but ladies and gentlemen, I have literally been talking about this for over 4 years, that eventually the stock market would crash and the AMC and GME true squeeze would come when the stock market was crashing. We were moving into a more volatile time, recession/depression, maybe a war on the horizon. This is what we're seeing. I said the market would crash, AMC and GME would squeeze during that crash, and then when it's all said and done, Bitcoin would eventually decouple as stocks start to pull back. And I believe this is what we are getting ready to see, ladies and gentlemen. Again, I don't want to get people too hyped, and I could be wrong about all of this, okay? There could be so much manipulation that we never see AMC and GME squeeze. That's why I'm also hedged with SQQQ. But if I am right, we are getting close to that point. So I'm going to talk to you guys what we're going to see here technically wise, and then what we could see here macro wise in the future for AMC and GME. As far as GameStop tomorrow, what we could potentially see here is GameStop coming to 21.58. If GameStop is able to hold that level, we could continue to the upside. We have support to the downside at 21.15, but I'm expecting GameStop to potentially have to come down to as low as $20 to $21 even, okay? We're already testing this falling wedge right now, and we could just see a breakout back to the upside. But I'm thinking GameStop and AMC are going to see a little bit of pullback Monday and Tuesday, and then potentially start to see some recovery in the later half of the week, potentially giving both AMC and GME a slight green week, and I'm going to explain why I feel that way. Again, you can see GME here has these buy orders. We're also, if you go ahead and zoom in, retesting the wedge. We could potentially just retest this wedge as support, and then that would see GME start to bounce to the upside and move to the upside in a significant way. So I'm thinking GME is going to come into these buy orders, this liquidity zone. If you look, this is a major buy zone here. So I'm thinking we're going to come into this liquidity zone, this liquidity pocket, and then get a push to the upside. But first, we have to see some more downside. So this is where I think GME is going to be pulling back slightly before pushing to the upside. We also have some other signs that GME is going to be bullish as well. Cost to borrow is starting to spike up. You can see cost to borrow right now spiking up for GME 0.68%. We want it over 1%. Obviously, not even 1% is a lot, but we want that's a start. You know what I mean? It is starting to move towards that 1% level, and it is spiking up significantly, showing that they have been shorting, and it is going to cost them more to continue shorting. So this is bullish to see less short pressure on GME. So this is signs that GME could be bullish. Also, the options chain, surprisingly, is still not bearish. If we go ahead and look at April 4th, which is this coming expiration date, you can see that we are stacked heavily to the call side. Now, people have sold a lot more of the calls, but there's still heavy volume in these higher call options. You can see that the volume's right here, this VOL. You can still see there's heavy volume in these call options. Now, a lot of people have taken profits, but it looks like they have rolled those further out, because the further we go out for GME, you can see that the options chain becomes more bullish. Again, we're stacked heavily to the call side. You can see some people buying some out the money calls here. You can see some out the money volume here. The further we go out, the more bullish GME's option chain becomes. And of course, as we get closer to these expiration dates, they could become more and more bullish. So this is a sign that also that we could see some recovery here for GME in the future. Okay, we might see some downside in the temporary short term, but in the future we could see some recovery. So again, I'm thinking GME could see a price target of $20 to $21 even. So do keep that in the back of your mind, and we do have those buy orders there. But overall, I think we will see a recovery, giving us a slight green week here for GME, but that's not going to be before downside. And then it is a green week. It's going to be a very, very slight green week. This is not a massive rally week. This is going to be a recovery week. Okay, we might even have to pull into the slight red week. We're going to see here at the end of the week. I want to look at my predictions and say they were right, so we're going to check them. But ladies and gentlemen, what we are seeing right now is definitely markets are going to be bloody. And I want you guys to keep this in the back of your head, because again, I like to point out this stock. A lot of people will say AMC and GME are not Volkswagen and stuff like that, but I'm showing you for historical context that this has happened. Okay, we've seen stocks, and GME, and I'll show you guys here in a second, is very, very similar to what Volkswagen is doing. We've seen a run up as the market starts to pull back. Then we see a capitulation before a massive, massive short squeeze. Now, GME, if we go ahead and zoom out, look at what the chart looks like. GME has been trending up. SPY is starting to top out and trend down. Now, what if GME is in that possible capitulation process where we do see a pullback and then a launch to the upside? It is a possibility. That is very, very risky, though, because if you do not take profits down here, or you get shaken out right before a squeeze, it is very, very dangerous. So you guys have to make your own decisions, because if it pulls back and doesn't bounce back to the upside, then there will be no longer a chance for you to possibly take profit and get out. But if it pulls back and you sell before it squeezes, you will never forgive yourselves. If you literally held all this time, it pulls back and then squeezes to the upside, you will never forgive yourself for selling. So again, everyone has to do their own research, but everything I'm telling you here is what I truly believe based off of my research, but you must do your own research and due diligence. So again, I'm showing you guys this because I think we are going to see some potential blood in the water, especially when these tariffs come into effect April 2nd, and that's why I talked about it right in the beginning of this video. Also, we have massive bearish news coming out with these threats from Trump and futures being down, and that's why I brought that up right in the beginning of the video. Again, AMC and GME could easily decouple from SPY, but think of it as a boat in the ocean. If the flow is going one way, it is hard for the boat to go against that, a sailboat to go against that. And if the wind and the flow is pushing for the boat, then it's easier for the boat to go uphill. But if SPY crashes down to a certain point, again, I'll show you guys the SPY chart in 2008. October, when Volkswagen absolutely squeezed, SPY was capitulating, bleeding for not weeks, months. August, September, October, absolutely bleeding. November, December, absolutely bleeding. That's when Volkswagen squeezed. In the October, when we seen the true capitulation, and then later we seen, so basically October, November, we seen the capitulation, and then we seen a squeeze October, November, around that time. So again, we could easily see something similar for AMC and GME, but you have to be prepared for this, and it's very, very dangerous, because if you do see that type of shakeout, it could either lead to you panic selling or buying the dip and making the best financial decision you have ever made. But everybody has to do their own research when it comes to that. So again, as far as what we could see for GameStop this week, I'm thinking we could see a little bit of pullback to the downside Monday and Tuesday, and then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, a little bit of recovery. I do expect more downside for GME. And as far as AMC is concerned, we do have this gap fill here at 284 and 283. AMC, I'm thinking, is going to see a little bit of pullback as well, but I'm thinking AMC can also see some recovery. Signs that we're going to see some recovery here for both AMC and GameStop is RSI is extremely oversold. AMC is trying to break out of this overall falling wedge. If we go ahead and zoom out here, you can see that we're actually trying to break out of this overall falling wedge. And if we go ahead and look at TradingView as well, you can see that we're trying to break out of the falling wedge as well. I'm going to go ahead and pull up TradingView here, and you can see that AMC is trying to break out of this falling wedge. We also have buy orders, and we have the potentiality of a double bottom forming as well if we do get a bounce. You can see we have this bottom one here, and then we could lead to a second bottom here, getting a bounce. We also have all of these buy orders here, heavy buy zone here for AMC. Again, smart money accumulating down in these lower ranges. Recently, AMC's short interest had just went up as well, 9.13%. They are stacking short shares heavily right now for both of the meme stocks. 3.6 million here for AMC at time of recording. Obviously, this can change as early as Monday morning. And then 3.1 million for GME. So again, this is why we could see some bearishness. We want to see those cost of borrows go up on both of the meme stocks. Right now, AMC cost to borrow kind of staying stagnant at 0.58%. It's kind of just been hovering at that range. GME cost to borrow, like I said earlier in the beginning of the video, GME cost to borrow is starting to move to the upside. We want to see both of the cost to borrows over at least 1%, like I said, but cost to borrow is a potential sign that something is going to be happening. So GME is looking really, really good in that aspect. AMC trying to break out of that falling wedge, like I said, this could simply be the retest of the falling wedge, and that's why I think AMC could see a green week after a little bit more downside. Okay, we have this gap fill to the downside here at about 283 to the low. I'm thinking we're going to come down and fill that and get a bounce. So what this would look like is AMC coming back up to retest like 289 or 290 as resistance, then coming down, using this as support, and then getting a sharp bounce back to the upside. You can also see we have multiple gap fills back to the upside. We have a gap fill here at 318. We have a gap fill here at about $3 to 304. So I think we're going to come down and fill this lower gap, get this possible double bottom, and then bounce to the upside, breaking out of this overall falling wedge. And that's going to give us a slight green week this week, which could lead into more green next week as SPY starts to pull back. This is why, even if you don't trade SPY, you might want to watch the SPY part of this video, because I'm going to show you guys what's going to be happening with SPY and how that could potentially correlate with AMC and GME, and how this could lead into that crash where we could see margin calls and a potential short squeeze happening. So again, AMC is in a prime position where I think we're going to see pullback Monday, Tuesday, possibly Wednesday. Then Thursday and Friday start to see recovery in the later half of the week, maybe giving us a slightly green week, maybe a slight red week. It's mostly going to be flat consolidation for both AMC and GameStop as we try to build a bottom and then start to push up if the market starts to capitulate as I'm expecting. Now, I know it doesn't make some sense to some people. They say, how can AMC and GME SPY go up? Or AMC and GME go up when SPY is going down. It has happened before in the past. And of course, I show you guys historical contests. I'm not saying AMC and GME are Volkswagen, but we've seen, while the market has capitulated October 2008, we have seen short squeezes. And short squeezes normally do happen in bear markets. They normally happen when liquidity is low. They normally happen when margin calls come. That's when short squeezes happen. So this is what I'm looking at for AMC and GME. I'm thinking slight green week for both of the meme stocks, but we're probably going to see some downside before we see that recovery. Remember, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, possible bearishness, and then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we could start moving possible bullish, giving us a slight green week, mostly flat consolidation in my personal opinion. AMC will probably come down to about 277. We also have support at 280. And then we have the gap fill at 283 to 284 that needs to get filled. And I think that gap will get filled as we retest this falling wedge and then get a bounce to the upside. So this one I'm looking at for both AMC and GME. Let's go ahead and move into SPY in the overall stock market and show you guys what's going on for SPY. And then we'll move into crypto in BTC and wrap up this video. So as far as SPY is concerned, I think SPY is going to actually do something opposite of what we are talking about here for AMC and GME. I'm thinking SPY is going to see some slight recovery here in the beginning of the week. Right now, you can see that we're outside of the bands. RSI is just way oversold. So I'm thinking we're going to see some bounce for SPY. We want to watch in the morning, though, because futures are down and the VIX has spiked up something crazy here in after hours. So we want to watch. We literally could open up and just be down. SQQQ is going to go berserk. SQQQ is already moving up here in after hours as well, and SPY has been moving down in after hours. So I'm going to go ahead and just turn on 24-hour trading just to see what we have here for... Okay, yeah, I have it on. Yeah, so you can see that SQQQ is up here and SPY is down here in 24-hour and after-hour trading. So, again, we could open up and you could see this thing just absolutely dump, which would mean we would see a little bit of recovery before further move down. But I'm going to show you guys a couple reasons why I'm almost confident 100% that we're going to be seeing a red week here for SPY. So, unemployment. You can see unemployment consensus and forecast. This is going to be on Friday. Unemployment consensus and forecast as 4.2, 4.2. Normally, when these two numbers are the same, it's going to be very close to, if not that number. The previous was 4.1. This means unemployment is going up. That is extremely bearish. We just got bad GDP saying the economy is contracting as unemployment's going up. This is more of that narrative that a recession is coming, a depression is coming. If we're not already in it, we also have high inflation. This is stagflation. This is a devastating economic place. And I'm telling you guys, a lot of people are not doing well right now. If you talk to everyday people that are not in the finance, they're not doing stock channels, they're not watching stock channels, they're not watching crypto channels, they're not plugged in and actually making moves with finance, they're not doing good. They're struggling. If you don't know about finance right now, you are struggling most likely. If you don't own a business or multiple income streams and you're not in that world, you're struggling right now. A lot of you here are doing okay because you pay attention, but everyday people right now are struggling. So we are moving into that recessionary, depressionary time. This is stagflation. The data is showing us that, okay? And this on Friday is possibly very, very bearish. Also, Trump tariffs, April 2nd. Okay, so we have to remember that. That's going to be on Wednesday. This could be very, very, very bearish. And I'm expecting the crash to potentially start shortly after the Trump tariffs are announced, if we officially get the Trump tariffs on April 2nd. Okay, then also we have this news that Trump is threatening to bomb Iran and tariffs on Russia. We were kind of moving into a peace deal with Russia and Ukraine, and now things seem like we're hitting heads are butting, and things are not lining up, possibly pushing us closer into conflict in the Middle East and a literal WW3. Not that I would ever want that, but ladies and gentlemen, look at what's happening. Okay, this is bearish news. This is why I think this week is going to be particularly bloody for stocks. Okay, and we could see a pullback in crypto as well. I'm going to explain that here in the crypto section. But I think SPY is in some trouble. Me personally, I hold SQQQ. I'm hedged. This is very, very risky, especially if you buy options. SQQQ is 3x leverage against the market. So if the market goes up, SQQQ goes down 3x. If the market goes down, SQQQ goes up 3x. It can be very, very profitable. And if you buy options on top of that, that's adding even more leverage. Ladies and gentlemen, I am hedged with this for full disclosure. I own SQQQ. It pays dividends. Right now, RSI is overbought. I'm thinking it could see some pullback to let the RSI cool down. We also have this gap fill to the downside that potentially could get filled. But in the long run, I think SQQQ is about to rocket up as NASDAQ crashes down. NASDAQ is currently breaking down out of a bear flag, which I've been tracking for the last week. I told you guys that we would come up and fill the gaps. We came up and filled one of the gap. We didn't make it to the second one, and that's also showing how weak this market is. I told you guys that SPY would mostly recover this last week as we move up towards that gap fill. The only gap fill we didn't fill is this one up here. We couldn't even make it. The algorithm couldn't even get us that high. It got us to the first gap fill, and then we couldn't muster the strength, showing us how weak the truly market is. So I think now that we got this little bit of recovery, we're resuming for more downside. And I told you guys that the market's going to recover a little bit before more downside. People were like, what happened to the crash? What happened to the crash? You're not going to have markets move straight down until true capitulation to panic selling. We're not there yet, okay? So we had this little bit of recovery, the bear flag, and now we're breaking down. I think we might see a little bit more recovery, not a major rally. It's going to be a 2-3 day recovery, and then it's going to lead to more downside in the later half of the week, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. So Monday, Tuesday, bullish, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, bearish, in my personal opinion, for the overall stock market. Now, let's go ahead and move into Bitcoin and crypto and wrap up this video. I want to keep this video as short as possible. I don't really want to go over 20 minutes, and we are already at 20 minutes right now, so we're going to do crypto short, sweet, and to the point. So crypto, ladies and gentlemen, crypto, Michael Saylor potentially buying more Bitcoin, and, okay, this is just showing you whales are accumulating. I've also released multiple articles about whales accumulating XRP, Ethereum, and this is all going to lead into my narrative here in a second, okay? And I back it up with news and facts and data. Bitcoin tracker. He has posted his Bitcoin tracker, and he's going to be buying more Bitcoin here in a couple of weeks. Also, Trump is trying to move us into a Bitcoin and crypto superpower. When this happens, the rest of the world is going to want to follow. We also have companies like GameStop buying cryptocurrency and Bitcoin. We also have countries like Iran wanting, or Pakistan, I do apologize, Pakistan wanting to make crypto legal. We also have the lawsuits getting dropped against the XRP because we are going pro-crypto. We want to become a crypto in Bitcoin superpower, ladies and gentlemen. Okay, we want to become a crypto and Bitcoin superpower, and once the USA does that, the rest of the world is going to follow. This is a buy zone, and accumulation fundamentals are improving. Crypto will decouple, in my personal opinion. Remember, the narrative I've been telling you guys. Stock market crash will come, AMC and GME will squeeze, and a crypto will decouple. This is a buy zone, and whales are buying. Michael Saylor are buying. Whales are buying ETH. People are buying XRP. You can see that we're in the buy zone here for BTC. Buy the fear, sell the greed. You can see that we are in the fear zone. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the time to accumulate crypto, not financial advice. We will explode. Fundamentals are improving, and the price will catch up with fundamentals, especially as this legislation starts to catch up and Trump keeps signing orders into making us a crypto superpower, which he's been doing actively, and he's been talking about crypto. He's literally been holding crypto summits, ladies and gentlemen. We will become a crypto superpower. If you cannot see what's happening, I don't know what to tell you. This is accumulation if I've ever seen it. Now, we could see a potential flush out, okay, as the market crashes, okay? It could be a huge flush out where they try to flush everybody out, and we've seen this happen before in 2020, 2019, when Bitcoin and the altcoins dumped and then they went to insane new highs. We could see a flush out. Ethereum has this gap fill to the downside before a major pump up. Now, be careful if you're trying to buy those dips because it's going to be very quick. Liquidity is going to be thin. It'll be a very quick flush down and push back to the upside, in my personal opinion. As the market crashes, you could see people panic selling, stuff like that. But I think that crypto would quickly decouple, in my personal opinion, okay? Right now, the market is going to be following Bitcoin. If Bitcoin pulls back, altcoins will pull back. Bitcoin's still in this overall downtrend from the top, and we could see more downside for BTC until we break above this downtrend, until we get back above 91.6K. So I want everyone to be aware of that. But in my personal opinion, any dips are for buying, and if we go any lower, It's an absolute fire sale. And anytime if you buy in this purple or blue area, you could see if you did that here, you would have made a ton of money. If you did that here, you would have made a ton of money. You did that here, you would have made a ton of money. So if it goes into the purple or blue or green, those are the buy zones. And you can see through history, every time you've bought there, you've made massive money. Also, we've had these big, huge rallies after the halvies, or big, huge rallies after the halvings, and we haven't had a massive rally yet. So I think we're going to have a rally after an accumulation and liquidity grab, in my personal opinion, especially now that all of this big money is moving into it with ETFs and things like that. So this is your weekly outlook and prediction for stocks and crypto. If you found this video informative, please drop a like and press subscribe for more content like this. If you made it to the end of the video, I truly appreciate it. This was a longer one. Thank you all for watching, man. Thank you all for watching. And as always, y'all, have fun, stay safe, make money. Peace out, fam.
All right, fam, that was the video. If you found it informative, go ahead and drop a like. It was a long video, so I appreciate it. If you watch the end, it truly helps me out a lot. And I appreciate each and every one of you for helping me make it this far and supporting the channel. As always, y'all, have fun, stay safe, make money. Peace, and hope to see you in the live stream.